When acquiring or inspecting properties, one can never truly predict what secrets lie within. Most times, the discoveries can be pleasant and exciting, while other times they can be eerie, leaving you frozen in shock. From unexpected basement dwellers to disappointing rooms and encounters with strange inhabitants or spaces inside a home, these tales and mysterious discoveries remind us of the need to scrutinize a place, even those we seem to know best, because who knows what surprise may be awaiting us. Join us on an exhilarating journey of discovery you have not seen or heard before. Number 15. Multi-million dollars vintage cars. We all wish we had a relative like this, don't we? After the passing of orthopedic surgeon Harold Carr, a World War II Army doctor and avid pilot, his family had the daunting task of going through his belongings. They discovered nothing short of a treasure trove that unexpectedly turned them into millionaires overnight. It's safe to say that his house was a hidden gem, and they struck gold. Known to be a bit of a hoarder, his home was filled with stacks of medical equipment, 1,500 beer steins, numerous receipts, and even a World War II spy drone. Sorting through it all was no small feat. After 18 months of sifting, they finally opened a garage, and right in it was a reward for their efforts. They uncovered many treasures, including a classic Aston Martin, which fetched them tens of thousands. But the real jackpot, the one that turned them into millionaires, was the Bugatti Type 57S Atalante. This exceptional car was one of only 17 ever produced. It boasted a 3.3-liter 8-cylinder engine, a 4-speed manual gearbox, could reach 60 miles per hour in just 10 seconds, and had a top speed of 130 miles per hour, perfect for a scene straight out of a Fast and Furious film with 99% of its original parts still intact. Car enthusiasts know that classics like this, no matter how long they've been tucked away, still hold substantial value in the market. When it was initially acquired, this vintage car was worth £895. Do the math, and you'll grasp the true worth of this automobile. Eventually, a telephone bidder who knew it was worth sealed the deal, purchasing it for an astounding £3,043,293 at Bonham's Retromobile car show in Paris. Number 14. Basement squatter in $800K home. Some people have nerves, don't they? You hear about their demands and wonder where they got the audacity and what they were thinking when they came up with such outrageous requests. This story you're about to hear caused quite an uproar online. It is about a house in Fairfax, Virginia, that was put on the market with some peculiar conditions and features. First, this 4-bathroom house was priced at a whopping $8,000, with a strict payment requirement of only cash. But here's the catch. The house needed extensive repairs and renovations. The roof was leaking, the outdoor furniture on the deck was deteriorating, and the window frames were rotting, among other issues. And all in all, repairs were estimated to cost around $25,000. Additionally, the listing boldly stated, "No access to see the lower level." Imagine paying a hefty sum for a property, shelling out additional thousands of dollars for repairs, and then being told you're restricted from accessing a part of the house. Naturally, everyone would wonder, what could be in the lower level that I'm not allowed to see? The basement of the house was occupied by a woman and her child, who were initially allowed in by the previous owner, and guess what? They can't be kicked out. The surprising part is, despite all these absurd conditions, the house was sold less than a week after it was listed. It's hard to fathom what made someone willing to overlook these obstacles and make the purchase. Number 13. Disappointment room uncovered. It's disheartening how people with disabilities were once marginalized and treated as outcasts and objects of disgrace in the past. They didn't choose their circumstances or have any control over their conditions, so why should they be subjected to such contempt just because they were born differently? It's a sad reality that we have thankfully moved beyond. A few years back, Lori and Jeff Dumas became homeowners in Rhode Island. Like responsible new homeowners, they began inspecting their new apartment for a befitting space for their music studio when they stumbled upon an attic room securely locked with a heavy metal door, creating an eerie partition within the space. Just the sight of it sent shivers with its look like something out of a horror movie, a room that resembled a prison or a torture chamber. It was unsettling. Driven by curiosity, Lori visited the local library in search of answers. There, she uncovered the grim history of this room. It turned out to be what they called a disappointment room, a room used by families from that era to seclude children born with disabilities. In this case, the house belonged to a certain Judge Carpenter, and the room was likely occupied by his daughter, Ruth, who allegedly had a disability. One can only imagine the emotional turmoil she endured in that room. No one should ever have to go through such mistreatment. Number 12. The secret room behind Samantha's mirror. When buying or renting a property, do you meticulously inspect it, or do you just do a few checks before sealing the deal? Well, Samantha took a more casual approach. This 26-year-old New Yorker had quite the unexpected adventure when she stumbled upon a hidden room behind her bathroom mirror. The incident caused quite a stir in the city that never sleeps. She noticed the room was always unusually cold, despite the amount of heating she did. So determined to get to the root of it, she started searching for where the cold could be coming from, and just discovered it was coming from behind her bathroom mirror. With determination, Samantha armed herself with a hammer and flashlight. She removed the mirror, which, to her bewilderment, had a small hole leading to a concealed, dark room within her apartment walls. Not stopping there, Samantha went into this hidden space, and as if she were dreaming, she found a dusty, secret chamber with windows open, blankets, food wrappers, and even a sleeping bag, all clear signs that someone had been living there. With this startling discovery, we would want to know what Samantha did next. Did she alert the authorities, continue living there, or move out? Number 11. The garbage house. This has to be one of the most distressing living situations imaginable. Imagine a house so packed with garbage, both inside and out, that you'd have to navigate through piles of waste to get inside. It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But you know what they say, impossible is just a word. And 75-year-old Choi took this saying to heart, albeit in a rather negative way. This mindset ended up taking a toll on his wife's health, leading to heart problems that required medical intervention from 226 volunteers and a doctor. Choi, along with his wife and unemployed overweight son, resided in Gwangju Province, South Korea. He began by rummaging through trash and bringing home various discarded items, firmly believing that with proper use, junk could become a valuable treasure. As time passed, the trash accumulated, transforming the house into an eyesore filled with garbage. Soon, all that was left was a room where they cooked, slept, and kept their foodstuff and cooking utensils in the trash. When Choi was interviewed about their living conditions, he explained that he did it out of fear for his lazy and unemployed son, with the belief that these discarded items might be helpful when he and his wife passed away, and his son had nowhere to go. It's undoubtedly a pathetic situation, and one can't help but feel for Choi and his family. However, there must have been alternative ways to help his son without subjecting himself and his wife to such detrimental living conditions. Number 10. The strange house in the attic. A Reddit user recently came across a rather eerie discovery in his attic. It was a worn-down, spider-infested house with decaying floral wallpaper, intact windows, functional light fixtures, a bathroom, and some abandoned personal items. Driven by curiosity, he decided to do some digging to uncover the history of their attic. It turned out it used to be a 2-story building, with the owners residing on the upper level while running a store on the ground floor. However, at some point, the second floor was sealed off, and a spacious attic was constructed around it. Additionally, a C-shaped extension was added to the ground floor, which was later converted into a church. What made the discovery even more unsettling were the items found within the attic room: a hat, an old cabinet, a toilet, a sink, and an assortment of junk and dirt, which pointed to the possibility that someone may have either previously dwelled there or, even more unsettling, could still be living there. The thought of the latter is undeniably horrifying. Number 9. Lost but found money. What would you do if you went on an expedition and found a huge sum of money while on it? Would you keep it or try to return it to the owner? Mind you, we're talking about thousands of dollars here. Well, let's find out what Dave did. Dave is a photographer who takes pictures of old houses. That sounds like a fun thing to do. Well, Dave had a friend who was also an enthusiast of what he did and gave Dave a tip-off about a rundown home in eastern Canada nestled amongst a bleak, icy landscape. As expected, Dave went to this place. Little did he know he would be met face-to-face with a fully furnished abandoned home in disarray as if it were raided. The home belonged to a Polish family who were roadside fruit sellers. So what happened, and why was the house left in such a state? The owners of the house got ill and passed away, but sadly after their deaths, none of their relatives cared to check on the house to at least keep it in good shape or put it up for lease. Just as Dave was getting ready to arrange his gear for the shoot, while at the same time scanning through the room, his eyes caught sight of a mattress. With a closer look, he saw a yellow plastic bag tucked behind it. Out of curiosity, he made for the bag, only to find nearly $6,800 in cash, neatly bundled up in elastic bands and with pencil markings of dates from the mid-1960s to the 1970s. Immediately, Dave launched a search for the family that lived there, and fortunately, he reached their grown-up daughter and returned every penny of the money he discovered. Number 8, the World War XI love letter. Love is a beautiful experience that everyone should have the chance to feel. These letters reveal a deep and enduring love between two individuals, one that even the hardships of war couldn't diminish. Marie Copley stumbled upon a collection of these letters in a house that once belonged to Miss Ronnie Stone of Leighton Road, Blackpool, and Air Commodore Frankie Clark, who served in the RAF during World War II. These letters, some handwritten and others typed, were discovered in a wardrobe, each filled with heartfelt expressions of longing to be united and affection. In one letter, Frankie vividly described their first meeting in a garden in the Lancashire seaside town. He reminisced about the happy days they spent together in Blackpool, which held a special place in his heart. The sweetest part was his closing words. "That's all for now, my dear. Fondest love and wishes that we can be together again, Frankie." Isn't that enough to melt anyone's heart? One envelope even contained pressed flowers, a tender gift from him to his wife. We can't help but wonder about the journey these two lovebirds went through and how life treated them in the end. We can only hope that their journey was filled with happiness and the fulfillment of their deepest desires. Number 7. Obsessive affection love? Nay, it's more like an obsession. How can someone claim to love a person and then proceed to hurt them? Love is meant to be a shield, not a weapon. So we must be careful so that what's meant to be protective doesn't become torment. In Argentina, a 29-year-old man found himself locked inside his girlfriend's house for over 72 hours, all because she was consumed by jealousy and feared he might be unfaithful. It seems this jealousy had been festering for a while until one day she decided to act on a sinister plan she'd been nursing. On that unfortunate day, after a fallout, the moment he stepped into the room, she swiftly seized his phone, uninstalled WhatsApp, and, in a calculated move, smashed the phone against the wall. Then she proceeded to lock him up for 72 horrifying hours. He remained trapped in that room until he managed to get hold of her phone, dialed a friend for help, and, with the assistance of the police, was rescued. On arrival at the house, the police heard his cries for help and swiftly intervened while apprehending his girlfriend in the process. It's hard to fathom what might have happened if the police hadn't aided him. Justice was served, and she was rightfully arrested and charged with illegal deprivation of liberty. Number 6. All for love. Here's another tale of the lengths people will go for love. It all began when Sajitha disappeared from her village in Kerala at the age of 18, back in February 2010, only to be found a decade later. Her family, not realizing their daughter was just blocks away, living in a spare room at her boyfriend's parents' house, searched for her. And here's the kicker. She managed to keep this secret for 11 years, even from her boyfriend's parents. How did he manage to keep this hidden for so long? Well, he played his cards right. He became secretive about the spare room, always keeping it locked and vehemently refusing anyone entry. If anyone dared to push the issue, he would become irrationally angry. To avoid conflict, everyone eventually backed off and left him be. So they continued living in that house, hidden away from the world, until that fateful day when Sajitha abruptly left her boyfriend's house for unknown reasons. Coincidentally, on the same day, Rahman, her boyfriend, reportedly fell out with his family and left. Concerned for Rahman's well-being, his family filed a missing person report. As fate would have it, Rahman's brother eventually spotted him in another village. Rahman was taken to court, where he had to explain his reasons for hiding Sajitha for over a decade. It appears that she was scared her family would not accept him due to certain circumstances, so she went extreme. Number 5. The resident with a jailhouse. You never truly know the full story of a person until they decide to move out or put their property up for lease or sale. Take, for example, this 190-square-foot white and green home in Guildhall, a small Vermont town. The house boasts 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, wood floors, and high ceilings. It sounds like a great family home at a decent price, right? Hold on. Don't jump to conclusions just yet because there's a little detail missing. Right next to this house is a 7-cell jail, the kind that was used to detain people until a few decades ago. Yes, you read that correctly. Before you get too concerned, let me clarify that the town jailer was the original owner of the house, and right from his time to when this report was made, the property has passed through the hands of many owners. Rest assured, the previous owners were not villains. According to the realtor, the jail section isn't in great shape, unlike the rest of the house. Some renovation work might be in order. Better still, it could be converted into a spacious family room. Now, the big question is, who in their right mind would willingly choose to live next to a creepy old jailhouse? Well, believe it or not, there are people out there who would be interested. It just goes to show, never say never. Number 4, the car cemetery. In an undisclosed farm in western France, an incredible discovery was made. A collection of 60 classic cars that included prestigious names like Bugatti, Hispano-Suiza, Talbot Lago, Panhard Levator, Maserati, and a rarity, one of only 37 Ferrari 250 GT SWB California Spiders ever produced. The total value of this treasure trove was estimated to be up to 12 million euros. Among the remarkable finds was a rare California Spider, a car that holds the distinction of appearing on the list of the 100 most expensive cars ever sold an impressive 13 times. Initially purchased by French actor Gerard Blain, it later exchanged hands with fellow actor Alain Delon, who was famously photographed with American actresses Jane Fonda and Shirley MacLaine in this car, which historians believe was lost to time. Another extravagant discovery was a Talbot Lago T26 Cabriolet, once owned by Egypt's last monarch, King Farouk. Known for his opulent lifestyle and avid collecting, King Farouk was not only a connoisseur of fast cars, but also held one of the world's most renowned coin collections. This site could be likened to a car cemetery, and it begs the question of how it remained hidden until now. Moreover, what eventually happened to these remarkable cars? Were they sold, and if so, at what price? Number 3. The Nazi military bunker in Austria. Andreas Sulzer, an Austrian filmmaker, made a significant discovery in Austria, a network of underground tunnels and bunkers used by the Nazis for nuclear and chemical weapons testing. Located near the small town of St. Jorgen an der Gusen, this complex was linked to the Bergkristall factory, where the pioneering Messerschmitt May 262 jet-powered fighter plane was produced. It is even said that Heinrich Himmler, leader of the SS, even visited this site in 1941, and allegedly up to 320,000 slave laborers from the Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp worked and perished in abominable underground conditions. Also, prisoners with specific expertise in physics and chemistry were handpicked from concentration camps across Europe to contribute to the project. The team also uncovered grim details of the harsh underground living conditions, characterized by cramped spaces and inadequate ventilation. Unfortunately, the excavation efforts were halted due to a lack of permits for work on historical sites. Number 2, the Pigeon found a home. Many rush out of our houses, sometimes forgetting to secure openings like windows. But after hearing about what happened to 20-year-old Oluwa George Johnson in his rented Nottingham apartment, we might all think twice about double-checking before we leave, no matter how hurried we are. Due to COVID-19, Johnson returned home to be with his parents, not realizing he'd left his windows wide open, inadvertently turning his place into a pigeon sanctuary. This might have gone unnoticed but for the accommodation staff who heard peculiar noises from his flat. They went in to investigate, and were met with a scene of bird droppings, feathers, and eggs in the sink. Johnson was immediately notified, but on arrival he couldn't even step inside to retrieve his belongings, as everything from clothes to shoes was covered in bird droppings. It was quite the situation. Number 1. The abandoned airport Hellinikon, situated 4.3 miles south of Athens, served as the city's primary international airport for many years. Initially constructed in the 1930s, it played a crucial role as a station for the Luftwaffe during the Nazi occupation of Greece. Throughout the Second World War, the airport was frequently targeted by Allied air forces. For 5 decades following the war, Hellinikon operated as a key transportation hub for Greece. However, it eventually ceased operations in 2001 due to its inability to meet the country's growing travel demands. In its stead, the Eleftherios Venizelos Airport opened in the same year, leading to the closure of Hellinikon in March. To this day, remnants of abandoned planes from the defunct airline Olympic Airways remain stationed at the airport alongside a disused runway. Again, how often do you inspect your environment? Have you had any scary and unusual encounters before? How did you react? Please share your thoughts, experiences, suggestions, and contributions in the comment section.